Some vehicles are built for efficiency, some for speed, some for comfort. And then there are the ones that make you stop, stare, and ask, how is that even street legal? From rocket-powered bicycles to motorized bathtubs, these creations defy engineering logic, and in some cases, common sense. They're real, they've been driven, and somehow, they're legal. For now. The classic Volkswagen Beetle is known for being cute, reliable, and slow. So one man in California decided to fix that by bolting a military-grade jet engine to the back. The result? A Beetle capable of producing 1,350 pounds of thrust, enough to hit over 140 miles per hour in seconds. The flames from the exhaust could melt the bumper of any car following too closely. And yes, it was technically still road legal, with license plates and turn signals. The owner only used the jet on deserted highways, claiming it was perfectly safe. Neighbors, however, called it a bomb on wheels. On jet power, the Beetle didn't accelerate so much as erase distance. The steering went light. He upgraded brakes and tires, safety-wired bolts, and retorqued fasteners after every run. He scouted routes like a pilot, long, flat, empty, with miles of visibility and no crosswind. The DMV saw plates and signals. The law saw a car. The neighbors saw physics armed with paperwork. Was it ridiculous? Absolutely. That was the point. An ode to outlandish engineering and the stubborn instinct to tinker until reality blinks. In a world where speed is policed by software limits and silent batteries, a round-fendered toy suddenly whistled like a fighter and breathed fire. And it proved a terrifying truth. Sometimes the quickest way to make something less slow isn't to tune it patiently, but to strap on a turbine, squeeze the throttle, and hold on. Originally built as a joke for a local charity race, this giant shopping cart started life as a welding project that was never supposed to leave the parking lot. But once the builder realized just how much fun it was, the idea of keeping it slow, or sensible, vanished. A full-sized V8 Chevrolet engine was dropped between its oversized chrome frame, the kind of power plant you'd expect in a muscle car, not in something you'd normally push down a grocery aisle. The result was absurd and a little terrifying. A 2-story tall shopping cart that could pop wheelies, lay down smoky burnouts, and roar past actual sports cars with a metallic howl. The driver didn't sit. He stood inside a platform built into the basket, strapped into a harness more like a drag racer than a Sunday shopper. Traditional seatbelts weren't much help when your seat was a swaying steel mesh floor, and your dashboard was a row of toggle switches bolted to the cart's handle. From that high perch, the view over traffic was unbeatable. So was the attention. Everywhere it went, phones came out, jaws dropped, and kids pointed like they were watching a parade. Despite its size and spectacle, it was surprisingly street legal for a time. It had working lights, turn signals, and even a license plate mounted to the back. For months, it cruised to charity events, fairs, and the occasional fast food drive-thru, where it famously once paid for a meal entirely in coins tossed from the basket. But its fame also attracted police attention. Officers eventually began pulling it over, citing unsafe design, though finding the exact violation in the rulebook often proved tricky. Today, it's mostly retired from public roads, appearing at exhibitions and motorsport events. Yet its legend lives on as the fastest, loudest, and most impractical way anyone has ever gone out to pick up a few things. And without a doubt, the only milk run that could beat a Corvette in a drag race. This one takes back to school to a whole new, and very dangerous, level. What started life as a perfectly ordinary American yellow school bus ended up becoming one of the most outrageous exhibition vehicles ever built. After its retirement from shuttling kids to class, it was gutted, reinforced, and fitted with not one, not two, but 3 jet engines taken from a fighter aircraft. These weren't decorative props. They were fully operational turbines capable of producing enough thrust to push the massive bus to a staggering 320 miles per hour. That's faster than most race cars, and certainly faster than anything that should ever have school bus written on the side. Officially, it was built for drag racing exhibitions and air show demonstrations, not for actual transportation. But that didn't stop its creator from leaning into the absurdity. Painted bright yellow with flashing red lights, it looked like it could pull up to a stop and pick up a load of kids. Except instead of rumbling away in a cloud of diesel smoke, it could blast down a quarter mile in seconds, leaving 50-foot flames roaring from its tailpipes. Onlookers said the heat from those flames was enough to make you step back even from the stands, and the deafening scream of the jets could be felt in your chest. The interior was stripped to the frame, with the driver strapped into a racing harness surrounded by switches, gauges, and fire suppression gear. It took skill and bravery to handle something that big at airplane speeds. At exhibitions, it wasn't just the speed that thrilled the crowd, it was the spectacle. The bus would roll up quietly on its regular wheels, the driver would flip the ignition for the jets, and the entire field would suddenly glow orange with heat as the engine spooled up. Seconds later, the behemoth would rocket forward, trailing fire and smoke like a missile disguised as public transport. It never carried actual children, thank goodness, but in theory, it could have. And maybe that's why it's so unforgettable. It's equal parts amazing and terrifying. A perfect example of what happens when someone asks, "What if?" and refuses to listen to the part of their brain that says, "Don't." Motorcycles are supposed to be about agility, weaving through traffic, leaning into corners, and fitting into parking spaces no car could dream of. This one, however, was built for something entirely different: raw, unapologetic destruction. Constructed in Australia by a builder with a taste for the outrageous, the so-called monster truck motorcycle was essentially what happens when you cross a Harley with a construction vehicle. Standing an unbelievable 3.5 meters tall, it dwarfed most SUVs, and its wheels, salvaged from actual earth-moving equipment, were taller than the average adult. Just climbing onto the seat required a ladder. Underneath its massive frame sat a colossal diesel engine, the kind you'd expect to find powering a small truck, not a bike. Its torque was so immense that even at idle, the whole machine vibrated like it was straining at a leash. Once in motion, it wasn't fast. Physics wouldn't allow it. But speed wasn't the point. This beast could roll over and crush a full-sized sedan without even a shudder, its enormous tires flattening metal like it was aluminum foil. Crowds would gather whenever it rumbled into town, children pointing and adults shaking their heads in disbelief. It wasn't a commuter's dream, but it was a rolling spectacle, a piece of mechanical theater that turned every trip into a parade. And in a world where motorcycles are built for speed, comfort, or style, this one existed for just two reasons: to dominate the road and to crush anything foolish enough to be in its way. Some people take their cars to the car wash. Others take the car wash with them. Enter the motorized bathtub, a bizarre blend of personal hygiene and personal transport. At first glance, it looked like a perfectly ordinary freestanding tub, the kind you might see in a fancy hotel suite, but underneath, hidden by polished enamel and chrome fixtures, was a modified scooter chassis complete with wheels, brakes, and an engine. The plumbing, still fully functional. This wasn't just a prop. It had working taps, a water pump, bubble jets, and even a small onboard heater to keep things toasty on long bath rides. The driver didn't sit in a bucket seat, but reclined in the tub itself, steering with a small wheel mounted where the soap dish might normally go. The throttle and brake controls were cleverly integrated, so at a glance it looked like the occupant was simply relaxing in warm, frothy water while magically gliding along the street. Technically, the motorized bathtub could be made street legal, provided it had headlights, mirrors, a license plate, and turn signals. Whether it should have been is another matter entirely. Authorities mostly tolerated it as a novelty, though police admitted it raised serious questions about safety, particularly if someone decided to drive while actually bathing. Still, its legend lives on as one of the strangest vehicles ever to hit public roads. After all, anyone can arrive somewhere clean. But only the motorized bathtub lets you arrive still in the bath. Promotional vehicles have always been weird, from cars shaped like shoes to vans disguised as giant soda cans. But the giant drivable hot dog takes the concept to another level entirely. The most famous of them all is the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile, a 27-foot-long Frankfurter on wheels that has been touring the United States since the 1930s. Its mission? Pure marketing magic, to make people stop, stare, smile, and then go buy hot dogs. And it works! Few things grab attention like a 6-ton sausage cruising through traffic. But the Wienermobile is just the tip of the bun. Over the years, dozens of local businesses have built their own rolling hot dogs, often on the cheap and often with a wonderfully homemade look. Some are crafted from repurposed vans with fiberglass buns bolted to the sides. Others start life as golf carts or small trucks before being stretched, painted, and topped with an enormous gleaming wiener. Speed was never part of the equation. These machines are slow, cumbersome, and, in some cases, questionably balanced. Safety regulations have tightened over the years, and some of the more creative builds wouldn't pass modern inspection. But as mobile advertising goes, they're unforgettable. Whether you saw one as a kid and chased it down for a free sticker, or stumbled upon one years later and couldn't resist taking a photo, the giant drivable hot dog remains one of the silliest, most enduring icons of promotional marketing. Proof that sometimes the best way to sell something is to make it impossible to ignore. Go-karts are supposed to be small, safe, and fun for kids. The kind of thing you drive around a track at 20 miles per hour while your parents cheer from the sidelines. This one, however, was small, dangerous, and absolutely terrifying, even for adults. The builder, Robert Maddox, a backyard engineer with a taste for speed, decided the standard lawnmower-sized engine simply wasn't enough. Instead, he mounted his own system to the back of the frame. It wasn't decorative, it wasn't jet-inspired. It was a real fuel-guzzling turbine capable of producing enough thrust to push the tiny cart to an estimated 160 miles per hour. That's faster than many supercars, and roughly 8 times faster than any sane person should be sitting that close to the asphalt. The acceleration was violent. Hit the throttle and the cart didn't just move. It lunged, the front wheels going light as the driver's head snapped back. The sound was equally brutal, a shrieking metallic roar that could be heard blocks away, followed by the whoosh of superheated exhaust. Standing behind it was out of the question. The heat could blister paint and melt plastic within seconds. Braking, on the other hand, was laughably inadequate. The original go-kart brakes were never meant for triple-digit speeds, and slowing down from a full run required a mix of skill, luck, and an awful lot of road. The builder admitted he usually picked long, empty stretches for testing, not for safety so much as to have enough room to stop. It wasn't practical, it wasn't comfortable, and it certainly wasn't safe, but it might just have been the most absurdly overpowered go-kart ever built. A toy turned into a missile, with just enough wheels to call it a vehicle. Some vehicles are built to change the world. These were built to change your life expectancy. Born from a mix of curiosity, creativity, and just the right amount of madness, they blur the line between engineering and insanity. They turn ordinary streets into rolling spectacles, and sometimes hazards. A bathtub overtaking you at 50 miles per hour? A school bus blasting down the road with 50-foot flames shooting out the back? A shopping cart lighting up a parking lot with tire smoke? All possible, and in some cases perfectly street legal, at least for now.